What? I think we are Is that approximately where we're up to? Okay, everybody knows the spot, right? The line begins, Haskil is Beinin Be'elukus. At the end of that line, the Nefesh Elokis is doing its avodah in a manner that it is mispoinen in Elokus, in a manner that the Hisbonenus is also recognized in Seichel HaTivi of Nefesh HaBahamis. Although the Nefesh HaBahamis is, as we refer to it, a behema, Nefesh HaBahamis, a behema nefesh, nevertheless, it also is capable of understanding this, of relating to this Hisbonenus. Ukiodua, as we know, as is known, that Nefesh HaBahamis kolul gamki miseichel umidis. The Nefesh HaBahamis also incorporates seichel and midis, which is a phenomenal thing, which is a special inyan of Nefesh HaBahamis, even though it is by nature a behema, as we shall discuss. Nevertheless, the behema within the human being is a different kind of a behema. It has qualities for which we refer to, we define it as a behema, Nefesh HaBahamis, a behema nefesh, but still it is within the human being, and therefore it has human qualities. And this inyan, why the Nefesh HaBahamis, if it has seichel or midas, why is it called Nefesh HaBahamis? Why is it a behema? This we'll discuss in a few lines down. But right now we're saying that Nefesh HaBahamis also has seichel or midas, velozois, and therefore, ha-hisbonenus de ha-nefesh ho-elikis, the hisbonenus that the Nefesh HaElokis is experiencing. Shemizboinen bigdulas v'reimus Elokus. When the Nefesh HaElokis reflects his mizboinen in the greatness and the reimus, the supremacy of Elokus, ma sheyochel haseichel lahasig, that aspect of reimus Elokus that the seichel is able to comprehend, harei zeh musog gam b'seichel hativi the Nefesh HaBahamis. This can be also comprehended in the seichel tivi, in the seichel of natural seichel of Nefesh HaBahamis. That's a good question. I'm sorry?
I hope we didn't discuss this point.
No, not well. We discussed last time dealing from Seichel TV, how the Hisbonenus can be. What is Seichel TV? We discussed essentially what is Seichel TV, and now we are going to discuss further this inyan. The Rebbe says that the Nefesh HaElokis is misboinen b'gdulas v'reimus Elokus, but it is misboinen in the dulas v'reimus Elokus in such a way, that aspect of Dulas and Reimus Elokus that the Seichel is able to comprehend. And if the Seichel is able to comprehend, then the Seichel Tibi of Nefesh HaBahamis is also able to comprehend. Now, what kind of Gdula and Reimumus of Elokus can the Seichel comprehend. Now, clearly, if this is a gdula, a type of a gdula that has no worldly way, no tiva way of defining, then it's not something that is musuk, not in nefesh habahamis, and not in seichel bichlal. Saying that musuk b'seichel, if it's musuk b'seichel, then already it has some kind of a definition. Because this is dinya ha-seichel. Seichel means that we are able to define that which you understand. This is the difference between the way the inyan is in seichel and the way the inyan is higher than seichel, like in Rotz. We discussed already several times that seichel is actually the redefinition of Rotz. I want to put this down to a tangible level. Very simple in Yonim. To make it very simple, we'll talk about seichel anushi. Seichel anushi means simply on a human level. Every human being recognizes that a human being eats by serving his mouth with his hand, not by putting his face into the plate. Now, this is both. It's a human thing, and a human being, if he should eat that way, he feels very uncomfortable, out of place, which has nothing to do with his seichel. This is just his self-respect. This is part of Rotz nefesh. He cannot allow himself to go down that level. Then, this Rotzen is translated on the seichel level. On the seichel level, it is not merely saying, I cannot tolerate it. It says, how is the proper way to eat? It actually has a definition. And seichel further elaborates on it. If you eat in the proper way, so you maintain, so to speak, your self-respect, and you remain clean. You don't dirty. You don't get all messed up on your face or on your garments, on your clothes. So this is all on the seichel level. But what is it? What is its basis? Its basis is much higher. It's in the nefesh order. Nefesh asichlis. Nefesh. The self-respect element, which is higher than seichel. But then, if it's understood in seichel, and then even the nefesh habahamis can also understand it. The nefesh habahamis, the behemoth element in the person, couldn't care less how it eats. He just wants food. But because the person has also nefesh asichlis, nefesh asichlis is sort of like a third nefesh. It's not really a third nefesh. This is like the upper, the seichel level of the nefesh habahamis. It's a higher level of nefesh habahamis. Sometimes we'll have a chance to discuss further what is this third nefesh element. Because it's interesting that when it comes to seichel, we say the seichel of nefesh habahamis, seichel nefesh elikis, and then we say nefesh asichlis. It's like a nefesh. Because in fact, there is that element that's called nefesh hasichlis. What is nefesh hasichlis? Just like the nefesh olekis tends towards olokus, nefesh abamis, as we're going to learn, it tends towards behemish. Nefesh hasichlis tends towards seichel. And if you act in a way that offends the seichel, it feels uncomfortable.
This is the human seichel?
Yeah.
Which is from the Nefesh Bahamas?
Which is from Nefesh Abamis. Now, just like Nefesh Alakis feels, if you act negative to Alakus, it feels uncomfortable. Nefesh Bahamis has its own thing that it tends towards Bahamis. Nefesh Hasichlis is that in a human being feels offended if he has to act not a piseichel,
Right.
inappropriately. What?
So when someone's eating, if he doesn't want to get himself dirty, that's below the level of seichel?
Right. So it's a human thing, and he wants to act according to seichel. Okay, and then the nefesh habahamis will also consent, and he will not say, "Come on, leave me alone. I want to devour this food." No, he can control himself, and he can say, "Okay, I understand this is a better way to do it." So he'll also consent. He'll also agree to do it that way.
The Nefesh Bahamas consents to the seichel
To
of the
the
Nefesh Bahamas?
Right.
Meaning the midas consent to the seichel?
That's
It's
right.
the nefesh hasichlis?
I'm sorry.
It's the nefesh hasichlis?
Nefesh
So it's
hasichlis.
just the nefesh hasichlis.
Right. The similar Indian is, this is just to the point to show how what happens in Seichel. That Seichel translates an Indian that is really a Nefesh Indian, but it translates it on a Seichel level. And it explains, look, it's not appropriate, it doesn't look nice, you get dirty, and so forth. And then, even though the essence itself is from a nefesh level, not from a seichel level, but it is translated on a seichel level. This is the meaning of seichel. Seichel takes that which is a nefesh element and translates it on a seichel level. Seichel level means it makes sense. Teva. The similar thing happens in the Seichel Nefesh Olekis. Nefesh Olekis essentially, it doesn't need an explanation for Olakus. That is the only truth it knows, and it doesn't need any explanations for it. But when the Nefesh Olekis then engages in exposing and expressing the in olakus, remus olakus, in seichel, the nefesh abamis is also able to relate to it. Okay, let's talk about just briefly the in remus, the gadlus and remus olakus. Now, Elokus and world are exact opposites. World doesn't exist. Anything in world does not exist except if it is created. Anything that's not created doesn't exist in the world. Just like we remind ourselves of the story that we mentioned all the time of this little boy who knew the whole Torah, but he never learned it. So that knowledge had absolutely no significance in his worldly experience. It's not knowledge. Now the nefesh ha'odam, the neshama knows everything. And it actually lives with it. Even though that knowledge was not an acquired knowledge, nothing that neshama learned. It knows it because it knows it in and of itself, because of the truth of the neshama itself. It's the holocaust. That is not knowledge that is acquired. It knows mitzad the truth of it, because it's true, that's why it knows it. This is not a knowledge that is on the worldly level of knowledge. This is just one, so to speak, inkling, one touch of what Elokus is. What is the inyan that we say that in the guf ha'odam, in the human body, there is a neshama? What do you mean by neshama? That's in today's world, they have a whole difficulty in identifying with neshama. They say, no, there is a neshama. There is all kinds of electrical pulses that make the guf sensitive. And we say, no, there is a neshama. What is a neshama? And what is the difference whether it's electrical pulses? What is the difference whether it's electrical pulses or it's a neshama? The difference is that electrical pulses has a beginning. In other words, something pushes it, and this is what makes it, there is a reaction. Something gives it a prick, and there is a reaction to it. And it's sensitive only to that which has a beginning. You know, something pricked it, and it's reacting to it. Neshama doesn't need to be pricked. Neshama, okay, I have to put it in some kind of concrete thing. Neshama wants to live not because it gets, not because it's sensitive to the idea of, it may lose its life. Life to the neshama is an essential state. It cannot lose its life. It cannot not live. Whereas the life as it is known in the guf is a subset of life. It's not the essence of life. The neshama gives it life, and the guf experiences its life as it comes into the guf. This is what so when they say that the guf exists on because of pulses, because of something makes it feel, makes it experience something. That means that there is a state where it does not experience, and then something makes it experience. The neshama does not have these two states.
The neshama doesn't have that effect on the guf?
No. The neshama itself does not have these two states.
Which two states?
The neshama does not have to be awakened to live. The guf does.
What's the second one?
Okay, so what we say is that in the guf itself, the neshama is mislabish in the guf, and gives the guf a sense of real life, even though the guf remains guf. Nevertheless, it houses, it's a recipient of neshama, and it experiences real life. experiences real life. Where do we see that the goof experiences real life? This is our important point. Where do we see that the goof experiences real life, rather than just being, so to speak, an electrical pulse? We see it in the fact that the goof can be damaged and cured. What causes the goof to cure? If the goof is just goof, just body, so once it's damaged, it's damaged. Just like any physical entity. What makes the goof get cured? It's because that in the goof there is a neshama. And the neshama, even while the goof was damaged, the neshama itself was not damaged. It's only the goof that was damaged. Therefore, the neshama instructs the goof to cure in a certain way, exactly the way the neshama wants it to cure.
Yeah, but sometimes, like, not necessarily is the goof always cured.
That's right. Sometimes the damage is such that it cannot be cured. But nevertheless, we say that even that if the goof is, then the goof has to be fit to receive the neshama. So as long as the goof is in such a damage that it can be cured, the neshama will force it to be cured. But nevertheless, at the time when the goof is damaged, at this time it is really damaged. And the only reason it cures is because the neshama directs it to be cured. Okay, so this is the difference for us to understand in concept, the difference between elokus and world. World is like the goof. Elokus is like the neshama, like the nefesh. So even though the goof can be cured, because the neshama causes the goof to cure, but the goof can be damaged. And like you say, the goof can be damaged to the point where it can no longer receive the neshama, no longer be cured. Neshama cannot be damaged, because that's a godly truth. So with the nefesh holokis, the nefesh holokis knows of elokus only. The nefesh holokis can only relate to that which is absolutely true, which is elokus, which cannot be damaged at all. So, and that type of knowledge that the nefesh holokis knows, it cannot impart to the nefesh habahamis, because it's not worldly. One more word, and we'll be able to see the whole point here. It's not worldly, so the nefesh holokis cannot impart that knowledge directly to the nefesh habahamis. But if the nefesh holokis is mizboinen in elokus, in a level that seichel, in a level that seichel can comprehend it. What is this level? This is exactly what we spoke about just now. The nefesh holokis is mizboinen elokus, and it says, you know what elokus is? Elokus is that which is truth itself. It cannot be damaged, and it can show the nefesh habahamis that type of a concept. So even though that this is ayin eliki, but it's ayin eliki at the seichel level. And once it's exposed in a seichel context, then the nefesh habahamis can also understand it, can also relate to it. And at that point, the nefesh habahamis also becomes, so to speak, ignited, excited. But the nefesh holokis is born in elokus in a seichel manner that the nefesh habahamis, then the nefesh habahamis can also relate to it. Okay, I mean, this is I mean, there's more to speak about this.
What's the reason that the electrical pulses won't repair the body? Let's say
Because there's nothing there. If it's damaged, how is it going to repair?
Not repair.
If you break a circuit, is the circuit going to repair itself?
Okay.
What would cause it to repair itself?
According to this theory, the electrical circuits are the body?
That's how the body operates, right?
That's how it operates?
Yeah.
So if a part of the body rips, so the electrical circuits that are inside of it rip as well.
Ripped, right? The circuit ripped.
And since they don't have something that causes them, there's no antecedent, ultimate antecedent.
There's no reality to it. It's all
based on
cause and effect.
Right.
If it's cause and effect, there's nothing there. Okay. So the Indian, from regardless of Remes or Lakus, there's many different levels and aspects. One Indian that is explained in Chassidus that we have the Oyer HaShemesh, the sunlight. So the Oyer HaShemesh Begashmius, it appears to be that the Shemesh is a ball of fire, a huge ball of fire. And this ball of fire produces a light, gives off a light. And this is the light that we have from the Shemesh. And from that perspective, we don't see in the Shemesh any kind of a godly element. It's a ball of fire. A fire produces light. But then, the Nefesh Olekis that knows that this ball of fire was a godly creation. That's the only way the Nefesh Olekis can look at things. It's a godly creation that was created in order to give light to the world. And it is misboinen in this godly creation, in this ball of fire. And it sees, the way the Nefesh Olekis sees it and translates it in Seichel, several things. Number one, it's true it's a ball of fire. But it's a different kind of fire than we have in our world. In our world, we have a candle. So the candle is also a fire, and it also gives off light. But the candle, as we said before in here, there is a wick inside the candle. So the fire comes from that which is not fire. There's a dark spot, which is the wick. And by consuming the wick, there is a fire. So this fire is not fire light through and through. There's a dark spot in the middle, that is dark. And there is that which is light. The sun doesn't have a dark spot. It's light through and through. It's a different kind of a light. This is what's called etzem behiri. An essence that is bright. Not like the brightness that we have in our world, where from darkness you transform, you burn it up and therefore becomes light. It's an etzem behiri. What makes something an etzem behiri? So we say, oh, well, listen, this clearly you see that this is a godly kind of creation. It's light through and through. Not like from darkness it transforms to light. In our world, the basic state is darkness, and then you burn it, it becomes light. Here you have something that is the basic state of it is light. Say, oh, this is a godly creation. Another thing that the Nefesh Elokis forces you to see, and that is, this is a fire. Fire has to have fuel. And a fire that has fuel, it consumes the fuel. And consuming the fuel will reduce the fuel. And the more it reduces, the smaller the fire. And the Nefesh Elokis is misboin and says, this is not what I see. This is not what I see. This is a godly miracle. I see it a completely different way. I see, yes, it is a physical fire, but still I see I see here a fire that has only one intent, to give light to the world. It's not a natural phenomenon, because the fire doesn't become any smaller. Therefore, the Nefesh Elokis, right away, even though the Nefesh Elokis doesn't need all that logic, Nefesh Elokis sees the whole world always l'hatchila, it's a godly world. But because it's mislabish in the goof, and in order for it to then recognize and bring about the cognizance, the godly cognizance, while it is in the goof, recognition, it has to put it into bodily terms, into worldly terms. So he said, look at this. It's the whole fire is a totally different kind of light than you know in the world, and it doesn't get affected by time. It burns and burns and burns, like Moshe Rabbeinu. Asna boyer boish, asna neinuko. The sneh is burning fire, but fire has to burn up. It's fuel. Like this, if the fire is from the sneh, so the sneh has to burn down. How come it doesn't burn down? Today's parsha, right? So then you say, well, it's a completely different thing. It's not a natural fire. Doesn't make sense. So again, the Nefesh Elokis on its own doesn't need all of that logic. Because the Nefesh Elokis, the very fact that there is anything, this is a Elokus already. Like we say, I said many times, we sit on a chair. The chair stands on the floor. The floor is supported by beams that are held up by the wall. The wall is held up by the foundation that is held up by the earth. And what is the earth held up by? So the Nefesh Elokis doesn't need all that cheshbon, because everything as far as the Nefesh Elokis is concerned is a Elokusim period. But it is in a goof, so it makes a cheshbon, and it goes to the end of the structure of the logical structure. Comes to the end and says, look, who is holding up the earth? Right? Held up by the godly decree that it should stay in place. So when it puts it in this logical structure, the Nefesh Abamis can also relate to it. Even though Nefesh Abamis only has a Seichel TV. So this is what happens when the Nefesh Elokis is misboinen in Elokus, but it's misboinen with Seichel. Then the Nefesh Abamis can also see to in its natural seichel TV, you can see that this is, see it in the Holocaust. Because the Nefesh Abamis also has seichel, this is why it can appreciate the seichel as the Nefesh Olekis is mispointed. If the Nefesh Abamis had no seichel, like a cat, you cannot explain to a cat any of these things. Say, look at this sun, look at this is a miracle. That's not affected. The Nefesh Abamis of a human being is able to see that this is something which is not normally falling into its normal category of how the world should operate.
No.
Nah.
Oh, so how does the midas of the Nefesh Bahamis, like, how do they relate to the seichel of the Nefesh Bahamis?
Well, this we'll still learn. Essentially, we'll learn, and I know you want to get. Essentially, this is mevatel, the midas of Nefesh Abamis.
Oh.
It takes a little bit of a shock, saying, okay, well, and there's something bigger than midas. Something happened over here that I don't understand. So it kind of submits itself. Okay, so tell me what is really the truth. How am I supposed to behave? Because it sees right away there's something different over here. This is how the Nefesh Abamis is affected by the Nefesh Olekis. Okay, now so far we're just touching the surface, okay, but just want to explain what the Rebbe is saying over here. Okay? Okay, so let's look inside. Okay, Odua da Nefesh Abamis kolul gamki miseichel amidus. Nefesh Abamis also has seichel amidus. Even though the seichel of Nefesh Abamis is what's called seichel TV, but nevertheless it's seichel. Seichel means that he can. One principle of seichel, just want to explain this and we'll be able to relate to this. The principle of seichel is, like we spoke many times in sight, just like sight is able to identify things without coming in touch with it, touching it, so too seichel. They say no seichel that he can relate to things without coming in touch with it. Midah is something that needs to be touched. I feel it. I'm touched. Seichel, he can know things without being directly affected by it.
But if he doesn't know what is being taught to him,
I'm sorry?
if he doesn't know the idea, so how could it affect him? So how can you know it?
Well, this is the argument. And Nefesh Olekis is saying, look, I know you don't care what the nefesh, what the sun is, what the moon is, and all that. But I'm presenting to you, so to speak, a logical thing. And the Nefesh Abamis says, yeah, I hear. Now this is not seichel, that he can relate to something logical, even if it in itself is not interested. I'm interested in the light, in the benefit that I get from the sun. Who cares about the sun itself? I don't care. Nefesh Abamis is saying, okay, wait a second. Let me figure it out for myself. And the Rabbi Shalakis is then in this phenomenon of the world. Logically, the Rabbi Shalakis becomes curious. So, what did you come up with? Oh, that's interesting. You know what I'm saying? And this way, the Nefesh Abamis also becomes, so to speak, swept up into seichel. If the Nefesh Elokis, if the Nefesh Elokis, without the Nefesh Elokis, Nefesh Abamis would never be interested in understanding how the sun operates. He's not interested. Now, but on the seichel level, from a seichel perspective. So let me explain to you what I meant by from the seichel perspective. Because the scientists are also studying the sun. And they're studying the sun, how big is the sun, how powerful, how much energy that is give out, and all that. And it does not have any effect. It does not refine the person, does not change the midas of Nefesh Abamis, nothing. So, because they're not studying it from the seichel perspective, they're studying it from the physical perspective. How powerful is the sun? How much energy does it have? How can you utilize that energy? So this is not taking it from a seichel perspective. So what is this light about? This is just using the physicality of it. Only the Nefesh Elokis, the Nefesh Elokis looks at it from a seichel perspective. What is this all about? Why do we have the sun? Why do we have light? What kind of light is it? The whole phenomenon, as we explained before, that this is like the essence of, essential light and all that, that's a seichel in it. That's nothing to do with the Nefesh Abamis. That's a Nefesh Elokis in it. But Nefesh Abamis is a neighbor of the Nefesh Elokis. It can also sense there's something going on over here, so it also can understand it, and then it can also benefit from it, also be affected by it. Okay? This is what the Rabbi is saying here. He also has seichel. So therefore, Nefesh Elokis misboinen b'gdulas v'remes Elokus, Mash yochel ha-seichel lahasik, that's what the seichel is able to comprehend. Harei ze muso gam b'seichel hativ et Nefesh Abamis. That becomes comprehensible even in the seichel hativ et Nefesh Abamis. As long as seichel, because as we said, seichel is able to understand that which he does not affect him directly. The Nefesh Abamis is also able to understand, to see what the Nefesh Elokis is so mispoiled about, so excited about. V'hine, behold, be'etzem, in essence, harei ha'nefesh Elokis v'ha'nefesh Abamis heim rechoikim miyoid zeh mizeh. Nefesh Elokis and Nefesh Abamis are very distant one from the other. In essence, they're two different worlds. V'heim beis hafochim mamos. They are in actual fact two opposites, truly opposites. This is their natures are truly opposite. Ukmeisha kosuv, and as the Pasuk says, Ruach ha'odom, the spirit of man, which is the Nefesh Elokis, ha'elohi lamaylo, which rises upwards. V'ruach ha'bheimo, the spirit of the bheimo, ha'yeredes lamato lo'oretz, that descends downwards towards the earth. This is by nature, Nefesh Elokis, Nefesh Abamis are mamash opposite natures. Opposite natures. Okay, we're going to go into this mitzvah, but just want to illustrate to you in our little discussion that we had just now. We have the sun. And we demonstrated two views of the sun. How the Nefesh Elokis approaches the sun, and Nefesh Abamis approaches the sun. Nefesh Abamis approaches the sun. Oh, wow, what a huge ball of fire. How much fire is there? How big is it? How long is it going to burn? Is it going to burn out in 100 years, in 1,000 years? What's going on over here? Why is its effect on the earth? You know, all that, what's going on in today's world, it's all going on. Nefesh HaElokis has a completely different view of the whole thing. First of all, it's not talking about the fire, it's talking about the light that it provides. It opens up a new vista, a new world, a new view of the world. We have light. Instead of darkness, we have light. It's a complete transformation of the world. The world, by nature, is supposed to be dark. That's what physicality is, dark. How do you identify a physical item? Am I going too fast? How do you identify physical? Physical item is in the dark. You touch it. That's what a physicality is. All of a sudden, we have light. And light gives you a completely different perspective. Light has colors. You have a completely different view, different experience with light. And then we start thinking, like we said before, Rabbi Jolkis thinks, what kind of light is this sun produce? It's what we call it, I've discussed the other before, a pure light. It's not a light that's coming out of darkness with a wick. It's a pure light, unlimited light. It's something which is light through and through. This is how the Nefesh HaElokis perceives the sun. It's not a logical light. Logically, physical light is supposed to have, there's something dark, and this darkness gets burnt up and it gives off light. There's no darkness. In other words, the Nefesh HaElokis says, this light, this sun, is not where you transform from darkness into light. To begin with, it was created to give light. It was created to be light, not dark. But to give light to our world, so that our world will be able to tolerate that type of light. This is why it has its limits, and this is why it's put millions of miles away, so that the little bit light that reaches us, we can tolerate it. So here we have, even in this little thing, we have this contrast. How the Nefesh HaBahamis approaches the same thing, and Nefesh HaElokis. Nefesh HaElokis, by the way, starts thinking, what is the godly element in this? What is the purpose of this? Nefesh HaBahamis always thinks, what is the worldly element of this? How do you measure it? How much power does it have? How much does it weigh? How much does it cost?
Why do that?
This is what the Rabbi is saying. Nefesh HaElokis, Nefesh HaBahamis, him hafochim beis hafochim mamush. Nefesh HaElokis by nature goes upwards and looks what is the spiritual, what is the ruchnius element in this, what is the truth, the godly truth in this. Nefesh HaBahamis looks what's the world phenomenon. The Nefesh HaElokis, okay, we have a few more minutes, we'll just trust it. The Nefesh HaElokis, hu koyach Eloki be'etzem. Nefesh HaElokis is in essence a koyach Eloki. Chelik elokah mimal. A godly chelik mimal. What does that mean? Now, I just want to give us a little bit of a handle on this. What did Rebbe say? It's a chelik elokah mimal. It's a godly element to begin with. So we use the sun as an illustration. It's a godly element. Therefore, it's a godly element. When it sees, like a sun, it doesn't think in terms of the limits of the sun. It's a godliness has no limits. Nefesh Abamis thinks in terms of its limits. How big is it? How much power does it have? How long is it going to last? Because it thinks right away, what are the limits? Nefesh Elokis doesn't think in terms of limits. It's a godly element. It thinks right away, what is it? From a godly perspective, God will say there's no limit. There are no limits. The limits are only artificial. The Rebbe made it limited so that we can also, on the earth, also benefit from it. But it's not concerned about its limit. It's going to end someplace. It's going to burn up. That's not in its concern whatsoever. Because the Rebbe created it, the Rebbe made it stay. It has to be finished. That's not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing it can be a different thing. I'm seeing a truth element. There is light. The Rebbe said there should be light, but there is light. Got the point? A little bit? This is the pshat. It's a laki. It's a laki, and therefore it sees everything from a godly perspective. That the sun is going to burn up, that's not a concern at all. It's going to be there as long as the Rebbe wants it to be. Because it's there in the first place, because the Rebbe put it there, not because it ignited somehow. All right. First exposure.